Are you on? Good. Yeah, I thought it was a white light. It generates heat. Okay, we stop writing. Let me explain then. After that, you write again. Good morning. Stop writing, please. Stop writing. Why I want you to stop writing is because you can listen well. My exams is about understanding. You have to write a lot in the exams. So, and if you don't listen, how will you write? Thank you. Good morning. We go to chapter 17, globalization. Global. Globalization simply means interconnectedness between different economies. So we are simply saying that the world is a small marketplace. That is what globalization is about. Get the point about globalization here. Globalization implies to interconnectedness between economies. And when we talk about economies, we're talking about different countries. So with globalization, the world becomes a small marketplace. And when we call it a small marketplace, it simply means that we can transact with one another with the help of globalization. I'm a Nigerian. I'm able to teach in Libya because there's globalization. Without globalization, I might not be here today. So globalization makes the world becoming a small marketplace. Do you understand what globalization is here? Interconnectedness. We are able to link with each other without any barrier. That is what globalization is about. Do we understand globalization? Yes. Good. So what are the factors that result or influences globalization? Why do we start thinking about globalization? That is what it means. The first one, saturation of domestic markets. This is Libya. Libya has its own market. Goods are produced here. Services are rendered here. But if we only have to produce goods as Libyans, we only have to produce goods for Libyans, and we only have to render services to Libyans, it simply means we cannot go outside there. So as soon as those Libyan customers that we produce for are tired of our product, what happens to our product? It stops. We stop making revenue. So with globalization, we start thinking about selling abroad. Get the point here. Globalization is an idea, it's an ideology. So it started with we thinking outside of Libya. We produce goods and services for Libyans. But Libyans are not the only one that could enjoy or consume this product or service. If we only have to produce for the Libyans, as soon as they get tired or bored about our product, what happens to our product? It won't be able to sell as it used to sell. Yes or no? Yes or no, please? So that means our market becomes saturated. It becomes saturated. And when the market is saturated, revenue drops. Revenue reduces. So if your revenue continues to reduce over time, are you going to be able to continue the business? No. Because if your revenue is not increasing, you cannot increase your profit. Because profit is total revenue minus your total cost. So if your revenue is dropping every now and then, your profit will also what? Will drop. So you start thinking outside of Libya so that you can sell to a new market. And that is globalization. Oh, the market in Libya has become saturated. We start thinking about selling our existing product into a new market. And it means you are moving outside of Libya. Moving outside of Libya means there's globalization. Just like I said earlier, without globalization, a Nigerian might not be able to teach the Libyans. Or the Libyans might not be able to treat, as a doctor, to treat a Chinese patient. But globalization has been that easy. Do you get the first point here, please? So the saturation, if markets become saturated domestically, you can as well think about taking those products or services outside of the domestic market. And taking it outside of the domestic market brings about globalization. Is the first one clear? Is it clear, please? The second one, increased consumer demand. These days, consumers are aware, they know more. We know more about goods and services even that are not produced in Libya. iPhone is not produced in Libya. Is iPhone produced in Libya? No. But we have iPhones here, yes or no? So it means, yes, globalization has made it happen. Now we know things that are even outside of our jurisdiction, outside of our border. We know. So this means we can as well buy things from outside of Libya, increasing demand. So consumers are aware, they know more. Please put your head up. Please tell him to put his head up. Your head up, please. Thank you. So with increasing demand of goods and services, now we know things that are not even present here. That means we can as well buy from outside of the country. Globalization has made that happen. So the thinking is, the idea is buying goods and services that are not even produced in Libya, importation. The third one. Yeah. The third one, labor availability and skills. These days, businesses think about how to remain competitive. And for you to remain competitive, the first thing you have to do is to be what? Efficient. That's the first thing you have to do if you want to be at that top, efficiency. And to become efficient, it means you have to find a way to reduce your cost. Because if you are unable to reduce your cost, and your competitors are able to reduce their cost, they'll be able to sell at a lower price. Customers go to them, they stop buying from you. So for you to remain relevant, to remain competitive in the market, you have to find a way to reduce your cost, because customers are conscious about price. And if you're incurring more cost, it means you have to increase your price. And increasing the price, based on the law of demand, quantity demanded reduce. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. The lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. So because there's always inverse relationship between demand and price, for firms to be able to sell to their customers, they have to find a way to reduce their price, their cost, sorry. So one way to do that is to start looking for a low labor cost. That is why a lot of firms, a lot of multinational companies, they go to African countries, they go to Asia, where there's large population, to set up their business there. Why? Because there's what? Supply, increasing supply of labor. So if there's an increasing supply of labor, what happens to wage rate? Wage rate drops. Wage rate drops. Because the supply of labor is increasing. If the supply of labor is increasing, it means a lot of people want the job. So even at a lower rate, wage, I would want to take the job because a lot of people are jostling for that job. So multinational companies start thinking about going to countries, African countries, Asia, to set up their business there, to have a reduced cost of labor. And if they are able to have a reduced cost of labor, it means they'll be able to reduce the prices of their goods and they remain competitive. Do you get what we're talking about here? Countries that have large population, there's always tendency to have large supply of labor. So if there's large supply of labor, it means firms, manufacturers that are labor intensive, will be able to set up in such country at a reduced cost on labor. And if their cost of labor is reducing, it means their profit is expected to rise and the prices they are selling is supposed to what? To fall. So that's another reason why we think about globalization. So there's a Libyan who has a business, but setting it up in America is expensive because labor in America, the cost of labor is high. So the Libyan businessman or the Libyan entrepreneur will start thinking about going to West Africa, going to Asia, where there's large population there. So the thought is now outside of Libya, and that is globalization. Do you get it? So the thought comes because you are thinking about where you could get increasing supply of labor. You won't get that in America, you won't get that in Europe. The cost of labor in Europe, America, developed countries are high compared to developing countries. Can you just stop that already and focus here?
Mister, can I go that?
Yes, you can. Stop and focus here. Do you understand what I'm making, please? Do we understand the point, please? Do we understand or not? Great. And the next one, decrease transportation cost. When we talk about transportation, the movement of goods and services from one place to another. Before now, the cost of transportation is always high because we have few means of transportation. But with technology, now we have jets, we have trams, we have rail, we have different types of transportation system now. So because we have different kinds of transportation system, transportation becomes easier. So I'm able to come here. If there was no aeroplane, I might not be able to get here. So I'm able to be here because there's transportation, improvement in it. Do we understand? So with transportation, it means people can move goods, heavy goods from one place to another. So a Libyan entrepreneur could produce in Libya and still sell outside of Libya because there's improvement in transportation. Do we understand transportation here, please? Yes. Everything we're talking about here are the reasons why we have globalization. Do we get it? Does it make sense, please? Great. And the next one, improvement in information and communication technology, ICT. With advancement in technology, the use of internet has allowed a Libyan to be able to communicate with a Chinese businessman without even being in China. I could do my Zoom here. Sometimes I do Zoom here from Canada. I have friends there, I teach them, but I don't have to be in Canada to teach them. Globalization has made it happen. And with what? Advancement in technology. So you could be here and transact with the outside of the world. Do we understand information and improvement in ICT? Do we understand or not, please?
Yes.
Technology has made it easier for us to be in a place and transact or have interaction with people outside of that jurisdiction without you present. Do we get it, please? And the next one, economies of scale. When we talk about economies of scale, we're talking about, please, you come in, you sit down. When we're talking about economies of scale, we're simply talking about a cost reduction based on expansion. So you can think about reducing your cost of production. What was the last thing I said? I'm going to show this to you. With economies of scale, when we talk about economies of scale, we're simply talking about a cost advantage we have because we are expanding. So the thought about reducing your cost of production means you have to start producing large quantities. And how are you going to be able to produce large quantities? You are going to be able to produce large quantities if you have large numbers of customers to sell to. With globalization, you could have billions of customers, which means you can operate on a larger scale. Operating on a larger scale reduces your cost of production. That is what globalization will bring about. So the thought is, how can I sell to large numbers of customers? If I'm able to sell to large numbers of customers, I'll be able to reduce my cost. So I will start thinking about selling abroad, not just for the Libyans. I want to sell to people outside of Libya. I want to sell to Morocco. I want to sell to Egypt. I want to sell. So this increases your customer base. And as soon as your customer base increases, I'm still talking here. As soon as your customer base increases, it allows you to exploit economies of scale. And the last one, advancement in freedom of trade. When we talk about freedom of trade, we call it free trade. Free trade, which is the same as international trade. When we have international trade, it simply means the exchange of goods and services from one country to another. With globalization, it means Libya can produce a product here and export it to Nigeria and export it to Turkey or Spain and the rest of the world. Without globalization, you cannot do that. So these are the reasons why there's globalization today. The thought about reducing your cost, the thought about having a low cost of production through low skilled workers, through large supply of labor, the thought about advancement in technology, the improvements in transportation, the extension, the market becoming saturated. So we start thinking about selling our product outside of this country. These are the reasons why we could talk about globalization. Any questions about globalization?
No.
Thank you.